Let's see. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, let's see how that works. So if you're just coming in, hey guys, this is just a little live stream, Q&A, nothing spectacular. So yeah, I'm gonna give this about 5 minutes, and if no one comes in, we'll just end things there. Oh. Nope. So we got someone. So yeah, hey guys, this is just a casual little live stream at the moment. Like I said, hopefully it's in the title, Q&A. So yeah. Oh, hey. You guys can hear me, right? Okay, starting a review. So, first thing I always do is I look for the story that interests me the most, So, be it just from the cover or something from the plot synopsis, or even if it's something I got on a whim and I just decide to watch it or listen to it. If it's something that really grabs me, I'll decide to review it. Basically, vested personal interest. That's how I decide what I want to review. And then as far as doing it, the TV show, because I've reviewed series 11 and 12, is very different. I'll watch it the night it comes out, and then I'll review it the next day. But Big Finish, I always give it 2-3 listens before I figure I'm finally ready to review it. And then one thing I also do, close this real quick, is I keep notes as much as possible. Someone's visiting my parents now, someone my sister's dog does not like, so he's back here. Most of the time it's audio because, like I said, when I do an audio, I will do multiple listens of it at one time. So a lot of the details, a lot of the things I want to talk about stick much more clearly in my head. And speaking of reviews, the reason I'm doing this video is because, like I said in my review of The Secret History, I am taking a little bit of a break right now. I'm going to be a guest on a podcast where I will be talking about Big Finish. 2 podcasts back to back, actually. And so I'm just taking a break right now to listen to those audios and get ready for that podcast. So this is just something to sort of fill the gap until I get my next set of reviews up. All right. The channel where I'll do this podcast is right here on YouTube. It's called Security Kitchen Productions, and every month he does. Joey Morgan, the person behind that channel, does a podcast called the Celestial Podcast, where he talks about something Doctor Who themed. Like, I believe this month, March, it's going to be New Who Series 2. And then next month, which I'm doing, will be the main range. I believe it'll be releases 27 through 36. And then the month after that, which I will also be in, that is the Early Adventures range, Series 1 and 2. As for the second half of that question, I haven't come across a story yet. I think the closest I've come would be the Sixth Doctor story, Brotherhood of the Daleks, because that one's a really bizarre story. Although I did actually review that one, so. right? How do you mean? Is there more to that question if I pick one story for each doctor, or? Like my favorite for each doctor, or? Oh, okay. So for my personal recommendation for each doctor. Well, actually, for most of the classic doctors, I would say the Doctors Revisited. It's probably the easiest way to do it. But otherwise, oh, that's tough because there's a lot of each Doctor I still haven't seen. But for the first Doctor, I'd probably say the Time Meddler. For the second Doctor, Tomb of the Cybermen. The third Doctor, Frontier in Space. The fourth Doctor, The Brain of Morbius. The fifth Doctor, that one's one of the toughest, I think, because Black Orchid. I'll say Black Orchid. For the sixth Doctor, I want to say the two Doctors because it's my favorite story, but I think I'll say Revelation of the Daleks, excuse me. The seventh Doctor, The Curse of Fenric. The eighth Doctor, the movie. The ninth Doctor, Dalek. The 10th Doctor, Tennant and Smith are the ones I've seen the least of. So those are probably the hardest for me to decide. So I will default to my favorites there. For the 10th Doctor, I'll say Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead. And for the 11th Doctor, I'll say Vincent and the Doctor. For the 12th Doctor, Oxygen. And for the 13th Doctor, that's a good Spyfall. Yeah, and just as far as recommendation goes, I always treat it as someone starting out in Doctor Who, so I stick firmly to this TV series for starting out. Okay, it's not a big story. Like, a lot of people I follow, a lot of people who talk about it, they always treat it as this life-changing experience. And for me, it simply wasn't that. In high school, I had a friend and they were like, "Oh, hey, you're a big science fiction person. You should check out Doctor Who. I think it's something you'd like." At that time, I'd heard of Doctor Who, but I didn't know a lot about it. So I did a quick Wikipedia search, and reading into it a little bit, I was like, okay, we're really far into Matt Smith, it looks like, at the time. So I'll wait for the next Doctor before I jump in. And I graduated in 2012, by the way. And then I graduated and then thought nothing of it. And then I remember there being a big deal about the fact, because 2013 was the 50th anniversary, about the big deal that Matt Smith was leaving. So I thought, okay, maybe now I will start watching the show. And the first thing I watched was some sort of fan show. I don't remember the name of it, but I watched the announcement that Peter Capaldi was going to be the 12th Doctor. And so I kind of cheat. Even though the first story I ever watched was Day of the Doctor, I cheat and say Capaldi was my first Doctor. Classic Who, again, same thing, 50th anniversary. Because also in 2013, if I remember right, The Hobbit was coming out, which of course, The Hobbit, Peter Jackson's The Hobbit, had Sylvester McCoy as Radagast the Brown. So that I actually recorded when it was on TV, the Seventh Doctor documentary, and watched that. And then I really didn't get into Classic Who until I got The Doctors Revisited, as I previously mentioned. And then I watched each of the stories in that set. And then over time, I started acquiring the DVDs and watched more Classic Who. And then I got BritBox. Audio, I don't think I started getting into the audio until Series 10 started coming out. And I don't even remember. It was basically on a whim, you know. I thought, because I'd looked around on the internet, because I read wikis and stuff, and I'd heard about the audios, but I didn't know a lot about them. So I went on Amazon and I looked around, and I got the 8th Doctor version of Shada. That was my first big finish. And then I got a couple more on Amazon, and then I started going through Big Finish's website. Yes, they are Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy and his Hobbit trilogy, both of them the extended versions. And then I also have the BBC Radio audio drama version of it. Yes, in the 80s, I think it was, BBC Radio adapted the Lord of the Rings trilogy for audio drama. It had Ian Holm as Frodo, who played Bilbo in the Peter Jackson movies, and Bill Nighy as Samwise. And it also featured David Collings as Legolas. That one, I'm good. I've thought about reviewing it in the past, but that's not one I'm particularly tempted to review because it's, you know, like the Lord of the Rings itself, it's very heavy. There's a lot of ground to cover. Oh, we got someone new joining us. Hello there. My favorite reviews are the scripted ones, the sketch ones. Because I find I watch those a lot and I revisit them a lot. YouTubers like Diamanda Hagen or Linkara, or he's not on his scripted stuff isn't on YouTube, or Nash, but I like a lot of their stuff and that style of review. Okay. A collection video? Probably. Here's the thing right now. My collection at the moment is so big, I'm getting ready to jump to digital only as far as collecting goes. The thing is, though, I have very little 5th and 7th Doctor stuff. So before I do a collection video, I want to get a little bit more from each of them before I decide to call my collection complete and do a video. Oh, wow, I already got a troll. Okay, Dark Shadows. That one's tough. For the audios, I would say Bloodlust is probably the easiest one to get into. It's of a relatively new storyline, and while characters from the show are mentioned or referenced, it's very and old storylines are very briefly mentioned. It does Dark Shadows is very story heavy, is what I'm trying to say, and it would probably be best to get some sort of comprehensive Bloodlust is the best starting line point, is the point I'm trying to say. There are probably a few scattered single releases that would be good too, like The House by the Sea, but otherwise you would have to basically start with the series and start at episode 1. And another one just popped up. Franchises. Okay. Well, there's a web series I watch that I really enjoy called Ruby. It's an anagram. It's spelled RWBY. I really enjoy that series. Star Wars, I'm a huge fan of. And as far as Big Finish stuff, the Big Finish classics, where they adapt classic works of literature, is another really good range. And that's pretty much it as far as recommendations go. And I'm probably going to end this one in half an hour. I never got into Star Trek. My dad is into both of them, and I have very vivid memories of him watching The Next Generation when I was a kid. But outside of the movies, mainly The Wrath of Khan, he never really got me into Star Trek, and I just never got into it. So it's not something I'm very familiar with. So it's not because my dad got me into Star Wars. But I am trying. I'm watching Deep Space Nine right now on Netflix. It's very slow going though. I'm only on season 1, episode 4. No, Stargate I never got into. I'd heard about it, but it was just one that completely flew by me. Same with Battlestar Galactica. No, not off the top of my head. You know, just one day I decided I wanted to start doing vlogs and reviews, and I started my channel up. I added it for commenting, and I pretty much started this on a whim. So yeah, any questions about my channel, I never really thought about. Um, Possibly, at least off the top of my head, there will be one video in the future. As soon as I can see Rise of Skywalker, I will rank all 12 theatrically released movies. But that depends entirely on when I can get to seeing Rise of Skywalker, because all the digital mediums it's coming out on right now, I don't have access to any of them. Yes, like I said, I'm getting because I'm prepping to review stuff on that podcast. Um, I'm just getting ready for those stories that I have to review. But other than that, I am going to start reviewing the spin-off series Sarah Jane Smith. Oh, hello there, someone new. So nothing much, just answering questions at the moment. They'll probably keep this going another couple minutes. And how's everyone else doing today? The Sarah Jane Adventures, I have never seen it. And I think right now, last I checked, certainly it's only available on Amazon Prime, which I don't have. I used to have, and then when they upped the price of their subscription, I canceled it. If I could collaborate with another YouTuber. You know, I never thought about that. You know, the YouTubers I do collaborate with, they're my friends. I start doing stuff for them in their audio dramas. So, you know, when one of them started mentioning, oh, hey, I do podcasts too. Would you like to be a guest? It's like, okay, I can do that. But yeah, as far as YouTubers I want to collaborate with, that's something I've never really thought about, especially because of where I live in the East Coast. No, West Coast, sorry. It is such a terrible time zone. Like, I'm like 3 hours behind everyone else. So while it's late at night for them, it's still mid-afternoon for me. Scheduling is just a nightmare, especially with my personal work schedule. I have Mondays and Tuesdays off regularly, so which, you know, everyone else has weekends off. Favorite video game? Right now, off the top of my head, it is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And yeah, no, it's my favorite game in the series, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. And I recently just finished playing it again. I have not played any of them. I think actually I only recently started hearing about them. Edge of Time, I don't have a VR set, and the 11th Doctor ones, I don't have a way to play anymore. I know, I think most of them were released on the Wii. And yeah, I got rid of my Wii a long time ago. Yes, I started watching that. Sorry, I didn't comment on it. I oh, cool. Yeah, I do have a Steam. I will have to look into that. But this computer right now is on its last legs, so if it can even play it, I'll have to. I don't even know. And thank you for that. Yes, The Diary of River Song is one of my favorite series. I'm gonna move my camera real quick just to show you. And I love doing those reviews. And as you can see right now, I have the complete set. That wasn't awkward in any way. And unless this stops, sorry, unless this picks up, I'm going to stop this at 45 minutes. So right now, just the 4th Doctor and the 12th Doctor, because it's the same coat. So excuse me a moment. Yeah, not a good time to start be getting sick. But yeah, mainly it's just those two because it's the same coat. So everything else I can switch between underneath it. And actually, yes, that is. I finished. I got that fairly recently, my aunt, who is very big into British television, got me that, and I recently finished series 1. Favorite British show other than Doctor Who? It's, hang on, I think I can actually display it. It's a sitcom called The Vicar of Dibley. It's a series about a little English village, and basically at a time when the Church of England was changing things around, this little village gets its first female vicar, which a vicar is a priest of the Church of England denomination of Christianity. And it is an absolutely hysterical show. Yeah, not to worry. I'm not even sure when I'll do another one of these, if I'm being honest. Worst British show. Oh, I can't think of one at the moment, certainly. Because, everything I watch, I only watch if it engages me, if it gathers my interest. So, as far as worst British show goes, I haven't come across one I haven't liked yet. And yeah, that's how it started for me too. Because, like I said, my aunt got me into British TV because whenever she was here visiting for the night, she would watch Keeping Up Appearances and As Time Goes By on PBS. Sherlock, yes, I watched it when it was on Netflix. It might still be on Netflix, or it might be on BritBox. I don't remember. Excuse me one moment. Yes, as I was saying, Sherlock. I was watching it on Netflix, and then I finished series 1, and then I kept meaning to revisit the series, and I just never got around to it. Yeah, because that's something about me. Lately, especially more often now, I've been getting series fatigue a lot, and lately it's been happening faster and faster. And that is actually my sister's dog. He is a lab pit mix. And I just had to hold him back here because one of my dad's friend was visiting, and her dog does not like him. The most expensive buys, depending on where you live, it will depend on the shipping for one thing, but any of the limited editions, because there's much, well, much more limited stock of them, for one thing. And, it's a completely different presentation. Then at that point, I will have to get back into the series at some point because there is so much stuff I'm behind on. I have to catch up with the 4th season of She-Ra, and then I want to catch up on Castlevania, and I've been watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I want to get into that, and yeah, those are the top 3 at the moment. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I watched the first 2 seasons of that, and by the 2nd season, I was just done. I liked parts of it. I liked Coulson. I liked Melinda May, but a lot of it just wasn't engaging to me. And favorite sonic screwdriver? The 13th Doctors. When the first promotional images were released, everyone was making jokes about it. I was just kind of meh on it. I've generally been kind of meh on the sonic screwdriver, but I don't know what it was. Something about watching her build it from scratch in The Woman Who Fell to Earth really endeared it to me. And because it's been endeared to me in a way none of the others have been, it stands out as my favorite. One audio story that doesn't get talked about. No, yeah, I agree. And the whole montage was great. Favorite piece of Doctor Who music? The Shepherd's Boy from Heaven Sent. I love that moment so much. I love that arrangement. I love that score. And of course, it's Heaven Sent, often considered one of the greatest episodes of Doctor Who ever. And one audio story that I think gets talked about as much as it should. Hang on, let me show it. Deadline from a bit of a glare there. Doctor Who Unbound, which, the Unbound series was a bunch of what if stories. Deadline was written by Robert Shearman, who, if you're only familiar with the series, he wrote the 9th Doctor episode, Dalek. And Deadline is just fantastic. Like, of all the things Shearman wrote for Doctor Who, which was Dalek for the TV series, and then he wrote, I think, 6 or 7 audios, Deadline might be the best. Hellbent is a bad episode. I don't hate it like as much as everyone else does, but yeah, I do see the problems everyone has with it. And I think for me, my problem is it should have been 2 episodes. You had the stuff with the Doctor and Rassilon, and then you had the stuff with Clara, and it was 2 plot lines that did not go together. They did not flow into each other very well, and the episode felt crammed as a product of that. And I think had they been 2 separate episodes, I think they would have fared a lot better. Mr. TARDIS Review, I've heard of. I haven't seen any of his stuff yet. He Who Moans, I have seen. I started watching his stuff around the time he was doing the Series 10 reviews. It was actually his 8th Doctor audios guide that I started getting into. Mass Effect, no, I haven't. Yeah, but I know it's by the guys who did Knights of the Old Republic, BioWare, I want to say. And seeing people play it, I do want to play it. It was just when I first started hearing about it, it was the shooting aspect that I wasn't really a fan of. I'm not the biggest fan of shooters. Favorite Linkara episodes. My favorite of all time is still his review of the Star Trek Doctor Who crossover comic. I also like his review of the what was it? The Hobbit comics. Those were good too. And the Jello Man comic. That one is hysterical. You weren't here when I was talking about it, but I have not seen a lot of Star Trek. I remember I have scattered memories of my dad watching The Next Generation when I was a kid, but I never got into it. Like, I've only seen a few of the movies, Wrath of Khan being the most memorable, and I've only started watching Deep Space Nine. And my thoughts on Change the Channel, I am in favor of it because as I've watched all this stuff come out, and everyone who's talked about it, from Alison Pregler to Lindsay Ellis to Linkara, they've all had evidence to explaining their issues, explaining their strife. And, Channel Awesome's response was basically to say, nope, never happened, And even the people who still stick with Channel Awesome, the thing that stuck out to me most was the stuff surrounding To Boldly Flee, the scene involving Lewis, Linkara, and Lindsay. And several people talked about their problems with that scene. And in our response post, Channel Awesome only called out the women for that scene. And that was like, okay, no, I'm done. And I have time for one more question. Just keep sticking at it. It's going to be very slow. But just keep practicing, just keep posting reviews, and watch your old stuff. Notice, oh, I could have done this better, I could have talked about this better, and you'll notice the improvement. And what game do I want to play? As far as anything coming out, I haven't really thought about it. Nothing's lately been catching my attention. I mean, as far as older stuff, I would probably say Final Fantasy 14, just because I love the Final Fantasy series, and I do kind of want to give that one a try. And thanks, you guys. It's been fun. and I hope to do this more in the future. So I'll just do my stinger. This is the Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.